All righty, it's Thursday. It's Family Matters with Kevin Petersen, sponsored by. It's got Jaywalker. We got Jaywalker all over us, and so I got a new package from Jaywalker.
Wow!
So,
what?
I mean, you know what? They just treat us right. I'll just say that. So
yeah,
Jaywalkerlodge.com for all your addiction needs, and you can talk directly to Kevin. You can talk directly to Kevin. Just ask for Kevin. He loves just cold calling people
24/7. You know.
Yeah, make sure it's like in the middle of the night. You know, he loves.
Yeah, that's right. Thanks, Jay. God, it's good to see you.
Yeah, you know, we do this every week to the best of our ability, and we get more and more questions, and so as long as the questions keep coming, we're going to keep doing
answering.
And even if the questions stop, I'll just start making stuff up. And the goal here is to stump Kevin Petersen. I call him the Family Whisperer, but we haven't been able to do that. But I really, 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 I don't want to foreshadow too much, but I really, really like the questions over the holidays, and we've had a few weeks off, and
let's do it.
Let's get into this.
Hit me.
Of course, my screen went blank, but I personally, I love all these questions. So I'm not going to keep saying I love this question. You know, so I love all of them. This is so Jay too. Like I did this all the time early in recovery. So long email, but really I've done my pre-show work, and so I narrowed it down. Kevin, how do we tell the difference between what let's call recovery language and manipulation? So you know, like, sometimes Kevin, I just want to let go and let God, and I don't need to take out the trash. You know, so. I'm just living one day at a time here, Kevin. You know,
yeah.
I don't
get
need
off my. I'll tell you a funny story about that. And thanks for sending a heater down the middle right off the bat. It's like no softballs, huh? Just pure smoke.
As they come in, I just put them on the list.
So my first year sober, I ended up going to Icky Paw. It was in San Francisco, right? And I heard this guy talk, and he got sober in college up in the Northeast, and he was reintegrating with his family, and he was like, my attitude was, I got to go to a meeting, and they're like, no, it's your turn to do the dishes. And he's like, well, you want me to drink? They're like, no, we want you to do the dishes. And he was like, I had to check myself and realize that I was trying to use my recovery as my trump card to do whatever and get out of whatever. And I was like, oh man, I could totally see that. I mean, I see it and done it and been there and have clients that do that. Well, you don't understand. And I'm like, so I do understand, and I understand that your recovery needs to absolutely come first, but you also need to be tending to your home. There's a great line in the big book that says, recovery, I mean, I can't remember, recovery is great, but the real test is how we're doing at home. How do we treat, wife, husband, kids, work, how are we showing up? It's that second half of the first step. Sure, we're powerless over alcohol, drugs, fill in the blank, and our lives have become unmanageable. Okay, so I'm sober. Yay, rock on, fantastic. Is your life becoming more manageable, and are you being reintegrated back into life? And are you of use? And now look, I'm going to be Mr. Big Book today, and then we go into the bedevilments on page 52. Where we start asking those questions, right? Am I of use to other people? Am I helpful? Am I kind? And that's that's why a guy that I looked up to tremendously, Don Pritz, used to say, God got us sober to reintegrate us back into life, not to hide in a meeting. And everybody can look good in the meeting, but come to my house at 6 a.m. and see how things are flowing. That's how you'll see what's going on around here. And I agree. It's great that you're sober. Rock on, go get them. But remember that you're part of a family and a part of a family system, and you need to be contributing to that family system.
Yeah, and this is obviously, I mean, you're coming off more often than not. If you're going to meetings, it means you're not coming in on a winning streak, and so there's probably lack of trust and lack of pretty much everything on the family's perspective. And sometimes, I know I'm guilty of it, using, I got to go to a meeting, or I got to do all this, I got to meet my sponsor, covering up some shady business. Let's flip it around. What's a healthy thing to kind of for the families to communicate, saying, hey, we're not really aware of all this language and stuff. We just want to make sure you're doing all right. Is there a way of kind of communicating and saying, like, hey, you're hitting us with a lot of one-liners, but how are you really doing?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think that, the family, this is where family therapy would come into play, or a family meeting once a week would come into play, where it's just sitting down and saying, hey, I know we're all Zooming one way or the other, but let's find a time. And maybe it's at dinner, every night, or it's Friday night pizza and movies or whatever. And just saying, hey, how's everything going? Where you at? And not focusing it all on the guy, but everybody comes forward with, oh, here's where I am. Here's what I've been troubled with. Here's how I'm doing. And then having everybody. And then if you start to get sort of the platitudes, right, and the superficial stuff, say, I got to be honest with you, it feels a little superficial. It feels a little like, you're just kind of checking the box and punching the clock. And I would like it if you could go a little deeper than that. And if you start getting a lot of resistance, then it's like, oh, well, maybe we need some family therapy, Yeah.
Yeah, the death of the family dinner, I'll just tell you, I don't know how this ever happened, but I'll just tell you, like, when any family that works with us, we have a family Zoom call every week, same time normally, and everyone's kind of invited to it. And I can just tell you, the amount of people that says, like, you know what this reminds me of, like family dinner. Why did we ever stop having family dinners and stuff? So the death of the family dinner is, let's just go on a bigger issue. I would just say, addiction or no addiction, the death of the family dinner. Let's bring back family dinners.
Oh, dude, let me tell you, I completely agree. That's 100%, no questions asked. For a multitude of reasons, but community is so critical, engagement is so critical. No phones. Just family dinner. We all sit there and hang out. And I know it's uncomfortable. And I wanted to add one more thing too, is that because I know the next thing the family is going to be like, well, but will that hurt? Will I be challenging his sobriety? Yeah. No, not at all. You're not challenging anything. If you're not walking up to him with a cigarette in one hand and a glass of wine in the other, like, what the hell's your problem? That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about, hey, you're part of the team here, and the team needs you to pick up your slack, and that's okay. You're not going to drive him to drink, And I agree that the family dinner is just so important, and to create that sense of connection with one another and understand, what's going on, how's life, and keep that engagement. Yep. Yep.
No. On a separate note, I was at a meeting and talking about kind of just one-liners and stuff like this. Tell me if it blew me away, and supposedly everyone had heard it except for me in the room. But have you ever heard of spiritual before material?
No.
Oh my God!
Is that a Nashville thing?
I don't know. I mean, God, it blew me away, because this guy was basically saying, and he was an older guy that got sober, later in life, let's just call it, and he said that his sponsor told him, like, it's spiritual before material. And so the guy walked up to his sponsor and said, hey, give me the fast track to becoming spiritual because I'm broke. so, so,
Oh my God, that's
and that
hilarious.
hit right to my heart. Is like how quickly we want to, like, and what I took from it obviously is like he expanded, like you got to do the inner work before kind of the outer work. I live in the outer self, like materialistic to the T, and how true recovery is. It's doing the inside work, the spiritual. So it blew. Very rarely it does a one liner any blow me over anymore. But
Yeah.
hey, we so this is right up your alley too, and obviously someone's loved one is in treatment, and it's I think right around 60 days or whatever it is. She point blank asked, like, I don't know if I'll just come out and say it. She says, is it okay if we don't believe everything the treatment team is telling us?
Oh yeah, absolutely. You should be questioning and challenging everything they say. And I mean, I fully expect the families that I work with to be like, what do you help me understand that, explain that, make sense of that to me. I mean, I don't think they're lying to you, but I would say, you have every right to be like, here's what I get a lot. Like, you're telling us he's doing well. We've been down this road before. He does really well, and then kaboom. And it's like, yeah, no, I totally get that. And so, our position at Jaywalker is we want them to be uncomfortable. We get really nervous when somebody's like, this is great, everything's wonderful. It's like, okay, hold on. We want you to be a little bit like, okay, this is tough. I mean, I'm having a good time and I like the guys and we're doing cool stuff, but this is a challenge. This is emotionally and mentally challenging for me. Right. It should be. And I think the families, at least the ones I work with, when they start to question things, it's when they're like, okay, we've been down this road where everything's wonderful. And then, he does his time and then a week later, boom, and I'm like, oh no, yeah, no, I totally get it. So I try not to be, cupcakes and butterflies all the time. They can be doing well and still addressing stuff and having stuff going on. And so I think a lot of times that's probably where that's coming from, where the family's like, oh man, we've heard this before. I'm like, oh yeah, no, I totally get it. And the other thing I get is, oh, we've heard the apologies before. And I'm like, yeah, no, I agree, man. Screw apologies. Let's make amends.
Yeah.
And let's make amends properly. And I teach the families, this is what an amends looks like. And they're like, we can't wait till that happens. So yeah, great question. Of course you should. Oh, of course. Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's being on both sides, seeing it now. I mean, I know the treatment center doesn't want to tell like the whole truth and nothing but the truth. Like he's acting up, and I mean, family just go terror, worry. But yeah, I like how you expand on that. What does that look like? I mean, what so forth like that. So you're pretty good at what you do, Kevin. So
thank you. So are you. You make me look good.
Well, this is we can call this guy Jay. It's I don't think that my mom wrote this email, but it is exactly the definition of what really I had to go through. And so paraphrasing here, and it's something I'm sure you're well aware of, but fill in the blank. But so they went through a family program, it sounds like, and the version from their daughter was ultimately that dad has a certain way of showing love that was never beneficial, let's just say, for this daughter growing up. And I take it, and like it's she's like, no doubt in my mind that her dad and my husband love her with all, I mean, bleeds, and she's not aware of the nights crying in bed when she was in active addiction about but her question is basically she's like, what if our version of love has been part of the problem? And it seems to be, she says, how do we come as a family is there a way of changing our version of love, how we brought him up, and what she needs while in recovery now? If that makes sense.
It does. Okay, so now you're going to get the marriage and family guy.
Hey, welcome.
I get a little nervous and a little concerned when I hear someone who's in treatment come back to the family and say, you screwed me up by the way you did this.
Mm.
And I'm like, okay. I'm like, what? Now, so dad may be, a little more stoic, right? Or, he shows love by, paying the bills and putting you in treatment and paying for college. And he doesn't, he's not touchy feely, and that's okay. That's dad's way. This isn't about, everyone has to accommodate me. I think this is about learning to appreciate each other. And then I would say in family therapy, I would say, okay, well, person, what does this mean? What are you talking about? And where are you coming from on this? And then dad, well, what do you think about that? How's that make you feel? And kind of walk our way through that and be like, well, this isn't about telling everybody else they have to change. This is about learning to respect each other and work with each other. And maybe what comes of it is I would like some more hugs and some more I love yous. Okay, dad will work on that. And, dad might be like, and I'd like you to be more accountable, and it kind of feels like, I hear this all the time. Well, now he's in treatment and everything's our fault. And I'm like, yeah, that's crap. That's crap. Now, nobody gets a free pass. Everyone gets held accountable. So, the person in treatment's going to be looking at their stuff. The family needs to be looking at their stuff. And we all come to the table with that position of I'm being accountable and looking at me, and I'm going to try to do better. And yeah, I don't know if I answered the question properly or it made sense, but I totally get where they're coming from. But I'm also like, oh man, that sounds to me like you're blaming your parents for XYZ,
Yeah.
And it's not to say I'm not saying they're wrong, but I had a therapist one time look at me. It's like, Kevin, you're 40 years old. How much longer are we going to talk about your mom? And do you want to get better? And I was like, huh? He's like, well, if you want to get better, we can get better. If you just want to come in here and bitch about your mother and your wife, we can do that too. And I was like, oh, damn. And so, they are who they are, right? I mean, the parents are your parents.
Yeah. And I think there's this redefining love and taking maybe a closer look. I know I've done that with anyone in my life, mainly, family. And I've had conversations with my two older brothers, and, it's kind of like, we now have come to this realization, like that's how mom has, that's why mom did that, because she loved us. This is how dad really shows love. And, it's, yeah, like, I agree with you. We don't know the whole situation. And so it's oftentimes to go directly at the question. But I think because it hit home with me as someone that's been through 9 treatment centers. I wanted to put the blame on anyone else other than myself. And so, if there was an opportunity to blame whoever it is, sometimes I was just making stuff up, so.
Yeah.
So we, the whole staff here at the Family Matters are taking bets on how you're going to answer this question. So it's a brain teaser almost, but it's a simple but also a brain teaser, and I love it. And so it's a long, basically. She actually, I think it's a mom. I think all we get are emails from moms.
Yeah.
But so she wants to point out that we have got her thinking about, they need to change as a family because, this, I think it's a son, been in and out of treatment and so forth like that. And she goes, question is fairly simple and straight to the point, but I doubt that it's as simple as I make it out to be. But she says, who's supposed to change more, them or us, Kevin?
Oh my goodness, Jay. Oh man.
It's one of those like, huh?
How many alcoholics does it take to change a light bulb? One, but it's really got to want to change, you know. Here's the answer. Everyone has to measure that themselves. Everyone has to come. Everyone needs to change, right? If nothing changes, nothing changes. So yes, the person is in treatment and they're getting their addictions addressed, et cetera, and their mental health addressed. But the family system has to change as well. So when the person re-engages, we're not doing the same old thing and wondering why we're getting the same result, different, new result, same result. So, my answer is everyone has to change, period. And everyone has to go at their own pace and their own path. I always say the identified patient is the person in treatment. The client is the family system, the whole family system. And a lot of times, if I could just get them to do a lot of education and understand addiction better and have them be like, oh, this is a brain disease and there's dopamine. Oh my God. I literally to this day, I have families say, I had no idea. I thought he was just lame, or, a knucklehead. And I'm like, well, he could be those things, I know I was. But, he also is fighting a battle that he doesn't have a chance to win on his own. He just doesn't. And that's not a get out of jail free card, quite the opposite. We're going to present you with the solution and you got to pick up the solution and run, but the same thing has to happen with the family system. They have to change as well because things have to be different. There has to be change. And not just with one person, with the whole system.
Yeah.
Did I neatly avoid the question?
I think so. Well, my first few thoughts were this: like, I think everyone needs to look in the mirror and be confident that they're giving their all towards that change. And if everyone does that, you're probably going to be on a good path forward. When I hear this and when I hear who's supposed to change more, that's kind of a challenge. And I'm also seeing that this could set up some resentment too in the future. Like, I've done all this change and you're refusing, like maybe it's my addict brain, but it's, I hope people aren't using like this as a competition. Like, I don't know what's his problem. We're here changing nonstop and he's just being lazy on the couch and not doing anything. And that's just going to add more to the chaos and to the resentment. And so I'm not saying that that's happening in this situation, but change is one of those things I don't think you can truly measure until like you're on the other side of it or whatever, however you want to philosophically, say it. But I think the simple thing is everyone needs to change and they need to change individually and as a unit. And let's not make this into a competition, I would say.
Yeah, that's the question, I'm going to challenge the question in itself is, by asking that question, you're answering the question is that you're still seeing it as an us-them relationship. Let's talk about we, and we need to change, not, there's no, how much do they do? And it's the old adage and it's the recovery. It's like, well, I'm going to take responsibility for my part. And as the wise old sages that I got sober with said, the fact that you still see my part, your part, that's the problem. And I was like, huh? And they're like, you're still seeing it as an us against them.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, okay. So that to me would be that's what needs to be addressed.
I think the best answer right there is like, change that, into how do we need to change? I like that. Yep. I like that. I think goes straight to the heart of the issue is, stop saying, one side or the other. Let's just walk down the street together as a family. So
Yeah, it's a we thing. It's not an us. It's not a you me thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Well, I thought you did good.
yeah.
You didn't. We kept the sweating to a minimum, and we got a few more for next week. But anyway, I thought you handle yourself just perfectly.
Thank you, Jay. I
You can
always appreciate you. Yeah,
you
I
can
mean,
take the rest of the day off.
yeah.
Whoever
If only.
whoever I need to talk to, just give them my number. But you can take the rest of the day off and get ready for the college football playoffs.
Oh, Lord Almighty, that'll be a great game tonight. But thanks for coming in hot at the beginning of the year. Just throwing the smoke right
Hey,
off the bat.
hey,
No
I'm just a
softies.
messenger. I am simply a messenger of God and of other people. Like Kevin,
Sure.
God, and everyone else in my life. I'm just a simple messenger. Don't kill the messengers. But I'll see you next week, Kevin.
All right, brother. Talk to you later.